Hi guys again, hope you're all well. Just thought we've got a horrible rainy day here after the Christmas holidays, wet and windy, so I can't get out and do anything. I've been running my truck and my bikes all over the Christmas holidays, but I just thought I'd do a little bit of history on sort of how the off-road bike, no, RC bikes sort of started off and how I got into it. Now, this, you probably know, if you follow RC bikes, is around about 2004, I think this came out. Now this is a Radio Shack toy from, say, 2003, 4, sort of quite early. It's not really like hobby grade. This one is now because I made my own swinging arm, made my upside down forks, and a lot of guys messed around with these. Some put nitro engines in them. I put all different types of motors and that in it, but I didn't put brushless in it because it's a belt drive, and I thought it kind of, it wouldn't be that great. It was probably shredded belt or something. But when you look at it, I mean, it's dusty and it hadn't been used for ages. It kind of, a lot of guys who were into the off-road bikes and stuff like that thought, yeah, Ricky Carmichael, that pretty cool looking toy, and like fifth scale as well, or quarter scale, I believe this one is. It's got quite good rubber tyres and things like that, but it had old forks, like they was just standard the way they were set up. There wasn't upside down forks, they were just like normal. And the swinging arm was plastic, and it didn't have an old damper. I made an old damper to go on the front. These are not old damp, they've just got like air in them, and they work quite well. But the interesting thing with this is that the steering system had like a rocker. I don't know if you can see that rocking. That's how it steers. It actually, it didn't kind of lean the wheel this way, that way. It didn't have sort of direct steering, which we have now. And it was very slow to turn, but it was still a nice thing, to have, and a good looking model. I mean, it's quite scale. Maybe the rider's a little bit small, but it got a lot of guys interested. In fact, I did make quite a few sets of front forks for them, and I think some swinging arm for some, friends of mine. I also changed the frame. The actual frame itself was very thin. It was like cheap aluminium that would bend really easy. So I got some like Dura-Ali, made some new side frames. These are all plastic, I believe, if I can remember that far. And I made all the metal spacers up for these. But, it wasn't a bad thing for a toy. It had the gyro in the back wheel. It's like a mechanical gyro, which I kind of stripped down and I balanced it. I can see the wheel going around inside it now. But when I first started it up, it was shaking and it was like an aircraft taking off, But we could do a lot with that gyro. I balanced it, and I took a little bit of weight off it just to make it, And I think I got this driving as well as can be expected, But there's a lot of guys having, good fun with them. It's like they're still okay, But things have moved on. But let's put this one away. Now, have you noticed on my ARX, which is, I must have had it 15 years maybe, they sort of copied the Ricky Carmichael blocks in here. So you had like the rockers which went steering that way. So it's exactly the same Ricky Carmichael. In fact, it is a dead knockoff. It seems like ORX sort of got the Ricky Carmichael bike, and they sort of said, oh, well, let's see if we can make this a little bit more hobby grade and change a few bits on it and see if we can make it look like a better bike. Which they did. They did do that. But the first one I got had a mechanical gyro in the back wheel, and honestly, it was just always breaking, and it's very made out of poor materials. It was really not a good setup, and the noise it made was like, again, it was so noisy. I mean, what you've got to imagine, you've got a huge weight in this back, in this back wheel that spins up God knows how fast. And it's really got a lot of, when you move the bike around, it really wants to fight you. It's got, really got a lot of gyro power. Now, I like going fast with bikes like we all do. I also like to kind of sort of crawl around and, show people how slow it can go. And that's what this ARX bike was very, very good for going slow because it had such a mad gyro in this back wheel. It's really, really sort of wanted to stay up all the time. It's only run on a 7.4 LiPo, and I run this on a 3-cell 5,000 milliamp hour battery for the main drive. It came with the old shock. I made this I made like an alley piece come out the back of the frame, and I made a piano wire bit to go around here because it was always, this used to be plastic and it used to go right up and come out here, but there's so much power and grip that when it used to wheel it used to flip over and then it would tumble over and over, and it would always bend this up or break it off, and it would damage your body. Now, I used to buy sort of spares from ARX, and it was a right pain because you had to round it up to like 20 quid. So if you wanted something for like a fiver, say a couple of wheel bolts or something like that, you'd end up having to pay more and more and more. And then you got your postage on top of that. And it was very expensive to get parts for this model. I believe this is not my original rider. This is off the latest CX, is it? X-Rider, I believe. They sort of, when ARX packed up, they actually brought out the bike again. It wasn't quite as good as the original ARX. They used cheaper materials and all that. But it's kept it sort of going, so you can get X-Rider parts for it if you need to. And they're a lot cheaper. Now, on this model, when they brought it out, my first one, it had a really thick body shell on it. It was really thick Lexion. It took ages for it to kind of, break and fall to bits and all that. So, it's my phone's just gone off. Right, as I was saying, it was a really thin body and it just broke and smashed to pieces. It was like, the original one it lasted me years. But when they brought another one out, it was so flimsy. So what I did was I got the flimsy one and I glued with shoe glue another one underneath. So this is in fact two bodies, and it survived, years of abuse and hacking around my old flying field. So that was when I thought to myself, they're thinning stuff down, and they were saying, oh, that's all we can get now. Trouble getting riders and stuff like that. And I thought kind of the writing was on the wall there. Something might be happening to them or they're struggling, because there was only like a little cottage industry. There wasn't anything, But then they come up with the electric gyro, which was like 100 times better than the mechanical one. Although I did have a lot of problems with it. I always have to turn them and true them up and everything like that. They never run true, ARX. They was, when you think you've got that great big weight spinning the back wheel, it's still noisy. You can hear it above anything else, but at least it don't vibrate. And the first couple of runs I had with it, it started playing up, and it was a bit of a nightmare. But actually, when I took it apart for the last time, I made a few little mods to it with spacers and truing it up again and all kinds of things like that. And it's been in there for like 10 years and it's never ever let me down. It always fires up. It's a great bike to run. It's very slow turning because it's got this rocker system. I mean, I know before ARX went bust, they did make a few bikes with direct steering. We talk about that a bit more on my other bike, but this was how it was. It had terrible front damping. Well, it didn't have any damping actually, so what I've done on this bike, let's get this stand off. Right, what I've done on this bike is, oops, that's one of my bikes, fell off my table, never mind. This had like quite a lot of travel in it, but it wasn't damped. So what I've done is I've put dampers inside. I found some car ones and I've managed to put them upside down in there, and I screwed the actual rod of the shaft. I screwed the rod into the front wheel there. So we've got the shock absorber there. I think it screws into the top bit there. If you can see those blue parts there, that's the original shock body, and that screws into there. So, and then you've got this rod stanchion goes up into there, and then you've got your damper rod which screws into that. So it gives it a very, quite a nice sort of suspension. Back one's all standard, but it was a good bike. I've got the Losi Promoto tyres for it, and I've got another gyro, so I can, put another gyro in it and run it off the road. But it's a heavy old thing. Always went well. You could drive it so slow. You could almost do trials with it. You could almost stop it, like standing up. It used to run so nice, and the suspension is so active on it. It looked really, good. So now let's just find the bike that has just fell on the floor off my table. Right, there she is. If you follow RC bikes, you all know what this bike is. It's called a Skyrider. Now, I never really liked this bike, the look of it, because it doesn't really look like anything in particular. I mean, ARX had quite a good rider on it. It looked quite aggressive, like the rider was going for it and all that. But this is just like a run-of-the-mill sort of Chinese bike. It doesn't do a lot for me, but I thought, a friend of mine had one, and it was like really like in a poor state. It'd been running in the rain and water and everything, and then just been left in the attic for like God knows how many years. I think these were out kind of around about the same time as ARX. So, probably 10 years or so they've been going, and they're quite expensive for what they are. But, if you're given a free one, you sort of think, well, all right, I'll do it. So I've actually, if you'd seen what this was like when I got it, all the alley, I mean, it should be red in here, the chassis and all that, but I've got the anodising off, which is not easy, and I just sprayed it black. I left the red on the outside. But yeah, I was quite surprised with it, really, because, again, it's got a very soft alley on it. It's very thin. It's nothing like the ARX. I mean, you can't bend that alley on the ARX. It's just solid, and it's probably almost 3 mil thick. This is only like 1.5 mil. There's a lot of space and things that bolt it all together. But I'm not a fan of looking at it. Now, they did a couple of versions of this. They did one with old damp forks. Now, this hasn't got old damp forks, but it's really hard suspension. Really, it's not plush or smooth. And I've been looking around to see if I can find the old dampers, but they're like rare as hen's teeth. So it's it don't look it's been used much because the tyres are good, chambers, everything all right. But anyway, in the summer I just finished building this, and I thought I'd take it over the park, for a little run round. And honestly, I was so surprised how well it went. It was every bit as good as the ARX running. But the thing that let it down was these front dampers, because it would wheelie and it would come down, compress the forks again, and then ping up again. So that's all it was doing, so bang, 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 bang. So with better front suspension, I believe this to be probably a nicer running bike than the ARX. Now, the big thing with it, if you notice, it hasn't got the rocker steering, which is not good for off-road bikes. This has got direct steering. So we've got a rod, if you can see that, they've got a spring-loaded rod from the servo up to the headstock. So obviously, about bikes, the bike turns that way, and then the bike leans that way, and then the spring-loaded effect lets the wheel turn around and she rides around. So when you want to turn right, for instance, like that, the wheel will in actual fact go that way, which puts the bike into a lean, and then the wheel follows it round, and that's how you get your control. Now this setup headstock is really nice. I mean, I drove it around and you could slow it down, brakes are not fantastic, but you could slow it down and you could actually sort of go around a corner without touching the crash bars. It was really nice to steer. The RX doesn't like, it tends to drop on its side. When you turn it, no matter what you do, I mean, I've done a lot of settings in that ARX. I've even put a helicopter gyro in the ARX to stop it wheeling. So a bit like the new Losi bike, when it gets to so far like that, it cuts the power and it comes down. I did that years ago. So it's got a lot, the RX has got a gyro in there. It's only a cheap, I forget what it is now, GP3 or 30, something like that. It's a little tiny cheap gyro from back in the day. And I've got that in the RX. This one only runs on a 2-cell, so it does wheelie a lot, and it's got a good speed, so the gearing and that's right. But it kind of, I don't think it would like really go right over, whereas the ARX is running on 3-cell, and that's got some brute power, which I quite like. But all in all, I was really surprised by this bike. I don't like the look of it, but it's just one to put in my collection. And to be honest with you, I think if you run this around with the ARX, you could have some fun. This is like as good as the ARX in some respects, but the RX is I would say, a stronger machine. This has got quite cheap aluminium on it. It's just got a plastic swinging arm. This is very soft. They run 2 for the electric gyro in this. Inside this swinging arm, both sides, it's got the connectors from the motor. There's a little board in there, a little electric board, and that runs 2 wires down. So you've got your positive and your negative, very similar to the RX, and that's what fires up the gyro. Gyro again is still like an airplane taking off, but it's very smooth. And it is much better than the ARX was, before I modified it. So this one was kind of straight out of the box, probably better than the ARX, but I just don't like the look of it. It's too long, and it's like, but she handles great. You can't fault it. If you just want to buy a bike, plug it in and play, which this is, it's superb. The ARX always needed a little bit of fettling and all that kind of thing to get it smooth. It's Italian model, I've had them before with the Novo Ferrara and 501 and all that kind of thing. You had to work on them a little bit to get them to actually like everything fit together. ARX is a bit like that, whereas you just bought these made up and you can just stick it on the floor and go. The only thing that lets it down is these front shocks, which I will try and do something with. So anyway, we move on to the next one, which I've only just bought, and I'm really pleased with it. You all probably know what it is. Yes, it is the Losi Promoto. Now, things have really moved on with this little baby. Now, this bike is why they didn't do this years ago, I don't know. It's a bike that looks like a bike. We've got the gyro inside, which I know a few people did do it back in the day. But look at the wheels. You've got open wheels now. And I've just bought 2 sets of alley wheels from, I think it's Vitavon in China. The guy I sold my little YZ252. And I've just received them this morning, so I'll be doing a little unboxing video of them because I think they're going to be superb. I mean, these are only plastic. I thought they were cast alley, but they're not. They're plastic, and they're bead locks. Whereas on the Viviton wheels, I've got to actually get the anodizing off and glue the tyres. But I've only taken this out a few times now over my car park, and I've almost worn the rear tyre out. I've probably had about 3 batches for it. So what I've done is I've bought 2 Viviton sets of tyres with on-road and off-road, and I bought 2 sets of wheels. They're quite expensive, but this bike I think deserves it. It's a beautiful looking thing. I really wanted a green one, but it seemed to be out of stock everywhere, and I wasn't keen on the red, so I managed to get this one. So anyway, you probably all know about the 6-axis gyro that's got in it. It's also got a mechanical gyro as well, which is in there. I believe it to be, I can see that curve on there, it's in there. So you've got the drive motor that's down here, and you've got the gyro, which is in there. Now, when you fire up this gyro, it is almost silent. I've been told by a few people that it does get noisy, because if it is a brushless outrunner motor, and it has got like the weight that goes round the outside of the motor. So you probably only got like 3mm or 8 diameter bearings in the motor. So, and you've got all this weight on the outside, you know, swinging around. A couple of guys have said you can put ceramic bearings in it, which will last a bit longer, which I might look into. But at the moment, it's still fairly quiet. So, I mean, the whole bike is quiet. It's just beautiful to run. You know, going back to the ARX, Carmichael and a Skyrider, they're like dinosaurs compared to this. They're absolutely worlds apart. Don't get me wrong, I still love them old bikes. But when I took this out for the first time, I could not believe it. You know, you've got these crash bars on, and you hardly touch them. You know, and the good thing with them, being black, I know I've got a little bit of wear on that, but being black, they sort of disappear into the bike. And you don't really notice them. But they're sprung loaded, like that, which is a fantastic idea. Plus, you can adjust them so you can have them higher or lower, whatever you want. At the moment, this is like bog standard. I haven't done anything to it, apart from just running. You know, like I say, the grass has been so wet, there's so much rain here, I can't drive it off-road and get it muddy yet. So, seeing as I knew I had some new tyres coming, I've decided, you know, I'm just going to kill this tyre. They're a bit hard anyway, but it's not actually the power that wears this tyre out, it's the brake. It's got like the standard like electronic brake on it. It's also got, you know, the front brake is not bad, but it's, look, the wheel's dragging. It's kind of, I don't know, you see the forks compress when you put the front brakes on, but it doesn't really anchor it up. So most of the work is done by the rear tyre. So when you're trying to slow down, it almost looks like it's got an ABS on it, because it's kind of, when you brake, you can see it spin, you know, but it's still looking up the rear tyre. And if you're running on road, which I've been running, it just wears the back tyre out. Now the funny thing yesterday was, when I went over the car park with it, I let my boy have a go of it. He loves it. But I thought, it seems a bit slow, you know, to what it was. And when you put it in wheelie mode, which is the most fun thing you could ever have, it was wheeling, but then it was coming down again. It didn't seem so powerful. I mean, normally in wheelie mode, you can wheel the whole length of the car park, but it kept coming down. I thought, I don't know, so I changed batteries, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, cut the long story short, I find out that I got it on 75% throttle. You know, somehow I must have clicked that on, you know, messing about, putting the flywheel on, because the button's very near it. So I clicked it up to 100% and we were back to business again, you know. So anyway, that's going to wear the tyre out even more. It's got a fantastic type of battery setup here. If I can just undo it. Right. If you see, the exhaust comes down, so you slide your battery in there, and the wires come out through this slot here, and they go into the exhaust, and they go down to a Spectrum plug. I think you can you see the orange Spectrum plug there? Yeah. So it goes down to that. The suspension is amazing on the rear. Let's have a look at this. We've got, if you can see that, we've got proper rocker suspension. Can you see that? You know, the guys at Losi have done their homework on this. I should imagine it's been a couple of years trying to get it, sort of all the bugs out of it. But they've not released it too early or anything like that. They've made sure that they've got this, you know, actually sorted. It's so realistic. And when you drive it, I mean, I'm a guy who likes a model to look like a model. I like it to go well as well, but I like something to look realistic. If you go through all my YouTube channel, search anything on there, all my radio controlled boats, aeroplanes, helicopters, I always try to make them look like the real thing. I'm not, you know, how can I say it? I don't like just to throw things together just to make them practical to use. I always like them to look good. So we had this bike. It's got beautiful, front suspension is absolutely lovely. We've got old dampers in there. We've got the disc brake on the front there, which needs to be beefed up a little bit. I'm not sure what I'm going to do there. I know Viviton do, they do the brake caliper, they do an alley brake caliper, and I think maybe this one's moving around a bit. Oh, I don't know, but it would have been nice to have a mechanical brake on the rear as well, because you adjust it. Because I can't find anything on my transmitter where I can change the end point to actually, knock some of that brake off the rear and just put more and more on the front, because you don't need all that rear brake and it just kills your rear tyre. I've actually bought a little module that goes in my transmitter, the one you get with a bike. There's nothing wrong with it, it does all what you want it to do, but you haven't got end points or anything like that. But there's this little module that someone put me onto, thanks Gary, that you plug in to your standard DX transmitter, and I believe it gives you expo endpoints and all that kind of thing, so I can have a little play with the throttle and see if I can lose some of that rear brake, because the rest of the bike's great, and maybe I can increase the front brake, or maybe I can shorten the cable or something like that. But I went out yesterday and battery after battery through it. This is a fantastic thing. I mean, like I was saying to you on the RX bike, the rear body used to always just snap off, but this thing, in most of the modes, even if you've just got it in like asphalt or concrete, she'll come up there and wheelie, and it's almost like a rev counter cuts in. You can hear it stuttering, and it'll drop back down again. And you can do really nice, long, small wheelies. It's kind of one of my favourite modes, I think. Whereas when you put it in wheelie mode, it'll just snap up like that. And honestly, it will go along like that for as long as you want. And you bring it down again. And you see those front forks sort of compress when it comes down. They look so cool. I can't fault it on anything really, apart from not being able to alter some of the electronics on it. The transmitter is your bog standard transmitter. It's got the gyro on it, so you've got a gyro button, and you can put the 6S axis gyro. You can turn it up a little bit, and you can turn it down. I've not really found a lot of difference in it yet, but that is what I'm kind of looking for, to go out with it and just try a few different settings. And if I've got that module in the front, I can have a proper play with it. I mean, I've got 8,200 milliamp batteries in it, and it just runs forever, and it's so smooth. I'm so looking forward to getting it off-road and getting my other tyres on. Now, the only other thing is, I know this suit looks fantastic and everything, but like an idiot yesterday, I thought, I wonder what it goes like if I turn the gyro off. Well, I turn the gyro off, let it slow down, and then I shut off on it, across the car park, and it got probably about 10 yards and it just flipped on its side, but it took off quite nicely. I'm not sure whether when you turn the gyro off, does it cut off the 6-axis gyro, I don't know, but it was just impossible to run, and it sort of scuffed up his jersey a little bit in there, which I suppose can't be helped. But this is, it was only a little slide and this just fall to pieces, so there's so many. I mean, what I like about this bike is there's so many things. You can buy all different outfits for the guy. You can get parts almost anywhere, and there's a lot of people out there like Viviton all making upgraded parts. I think GPM have come out of woodwork and started making some alloy bits. I've never a fan of those because they use horrible alloy, like cheese. But they've come out again and they've started making parts for it. I mean, it's just a beautiful thing. I cannot fault it on one thing. So I'm going to open my box in a minute with the wheels in, and I'll do a little vid on that and show you what the new wheels like. But I'm going to sign out now. I hope you like just this little bit of history of kind of how the dirt bike started, but this is like worlds apart. The Losi have really done their homework here, and they've designed and brought out the most cool looking bike and the most user friendly You just put your battery in, you switch it on and drive it. That's what guys want now. They don't want all this fettling, they just want to put the bike down and fettle it, and probably like me, buy a few upgrades for it. So I'm going to sign out now, guys. I can't wait to open my box of bits, wheels and whatever, and I'll do a little bit on that, a little bit shorter one than this one, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.